I think we'd all be forgiven for assuming that the natural state of the Irish landscape is small green fields. Of course, it absolutely isn't, and it wasn't. It would have been a lot more like this. And there's a group based here in Clare who want to reshape the Irish landscape by recreating this woodland, what they call an Irish rainforest, all along the west coast.
Hometree is a registered charity set up to plant and restore native woodland. Cathal McMahon is a beef farmer outside Milltown, Malbay. He took part in one of their projects, the Eilon Farm Forest Alliance.
From your point of view, what did you get from Hometree?
So the guys provided all the trees, all native species. They planted them, and we also got a voucher for fencing. So we bought fencing and we put up ourselves. One of the areas was scrubland anyway, and we just thought we'd fill it up with the native woodland. And then at the other side is quite wet, there's springs there, so we said we'd sow it there as a boundary between ourselves and our neighbours, and it might dry up the land as well around it.
Cathal showed me one of the sites where Hometree staff were checking and, where needed, replacing young trees.
It's so good. It's already got the windward side on it.
30,000 trees have been planted here so far. It's funded by the European Union and the Department of Agriculture, and farmers receive payments to plant trees on their land. Ray O'Fowlu works with the farmers involved.
So we worked with 12 farms in this catchment, and their farms all run down into the old woods, and we incentivised them to expand the old woodlands through shelter belts and other strategies. So yeah, in all we've probably put about 35 to 40 hectares into native woodland.
And I suppose the fundamental idea here is to connect the patches of woodlands together, because you get a real sort of boom in nature when they are connected.
Yeah, certainly from the charity's point of view, we'd love to see more of them on the landscape and see connectivity between them. The furthest west population actually of red squirrels in West Clare is just behind us here in Slieve Callan, and I love the idea that through connecting these pockets of woodlands up, we could bring them closer to the coast.
Hometree recently launched what they call the Wild Atlantic Rainforest Project. They want to restore and plant native trees on 4,000 acres from Donegal to Kerry. Farmers who get involved will be paid on a per acre of land basis. Ray took Cathal and I to a patch of native woodland in the Glendine Valley to show us a good example of what they want to develop.
Oh, it's a different world. I love that moment. You just pass under the edge of the canopy and it's always quieter. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
They're fascinating places, and really we're lucky to still have them, and our dream, our idea is to work with farmers to allow them to expand them.
So what is it about these wet woodlands that you think is so important?
These would have dominated our landscape. This would have been the natural vegetation of much of the west of Ireland. I think they're part of our cultural heritage and something we really need to look after.
After the last ice age 10,000 years ago, 80% of Ireland was covered from coast to coast in trees. But as humans colonised the country, they cleared the land for agriculture. By the 1600s, tree cover was down to less than 20%. Today, our ancient woodlands have all but disappeared.
How do you recreate this on pasture land? I mean, if you're thinking about Donegal to Kerry,
There's two ways you can go about it. One, you can facilitate natural regeneration. You can just exclude grazing animals, and these places will come back, there's no doubt about it. Some places, particularly up in the uplands, where there's no native trees or very few native trees left and limited seed source, I think judicious planting of trees where ecologically appropriate is probably the way to go.
The trees in this wood include hazel and sessile oak. Their canopy provides a moist, warm habitat for ferns, mosses and lichens to grow.
These are epiphytes. Epiphytes are plants like this polypody fern that grow on top of other plants like this sessile oak here, and they're able to do that because it's just so wet, so often it rains on so many days of the year here that it facilitates this.
It's not just a tree, you've got an awful lot of things going on here.
Yeah, when we talk about biodiversity, this is biodiversity. We often overlook it. There's so many different life forms just on this limb of one tree, and each one of those life forms is probably connected to multiple other life forms, rippling its way up through the system.
Creating and restoring native woodland on 4,000 acres will require a lot of young trees. At Hometree's headquarters in Ennistymon, CEO Matt Smith showed me their nursery with trees such as Scots pine, birch and alder.
30,000 trees in this tunnel.
Is there?
And they'll be kind of distributed on the kind of western seaboard, on the Atlantic Rainforest Project, and they've all been grown from seeds collected in different areas in the west, so they're ready to start populating. You know, we're told every single day about climate change and biodiversity loss. Like, this is a response to that. 20 million acres in Ireland. Our project's talking about 4,000. It's tiny. It's actually not even ambitious. It's the opposite of ambitious. It's not enough.
The Hometree team want to buy 2,000 acres of land, and they've already secured a farm in Galway. For the other 2,000 acres, they want to partner with landowners and farmers like Cathal. They say the project will cost €12 million, which they plan to obtain from a mix of public funds from the state, private donations, and corporate and business partners.
We're not selling carbon credits with this project.
There's no offsetting.
There's no offsetting, but in the short term, you know, you can really support nature restoration. So there is a lot to be gleaned from that if you're a smart business.
For thousands of years, humans have cleared trees to grow crops and raise livestock instead. This project looks to change that mindset.
A lot of the full-time farmers we've worked with on this project, you know, their grandfathers potentially cleared some of these old woodlands. The idea of putting land back into a wild state is challenging for them. So I think you got to show them how and why and where the benefits are of doing it. You know, and some of them can be in terms of stock management, some of them can be in terms of regulatory compliance. I think there's going to be more and more pressure to ensure we have good water quality. Do a riparian woodland, store carbon, and ensure you're protecting your local river or lake. Yeah, there's benefits there.
10 months ago, Hometree began to plant young trees on Cahill's farm. The saplings might not look like much now, but this small wood gives a hint of what could be in store in the future.
It's interesting, isn't it, to think, like the area of wetland that you've planted, 100 years down the line, this is what it could look like.
Yeah.
Would you see that as...
I would see many benefits to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would.
yeah.
Yeah, especially in the region we're in. We're lucky enough to have rare species of birds and plants and wildlife, and this is all to support that. We'd be very happy if something like this happened. Yeah.